On the 30th of November 1854, 12,000 diggers met at Bakery Hill, and it was around this time that Peter Lalor, an Irish miner, became a leader for the Eureka Stockade. Okay, he kind of became a spokesperson for the diggers at the time. So let's just pause here, and I want you to go to a Word document, OneNote, whatever you would like. Okay, so wherever you're writing your notes. Okay, and I want you to stop and list in dot points, so summarize. Nice cognitive verb for us. The reasons why miners were unhappy on the goldfields leading up to the Eureka Stockade. Okay, what reasons did the stockade begin? So I'll let you just pause the video and then go off and do that, and then come back and we'll keep going. Okay, so on the 2nd of December in 1854, a stockade was built in Ballarat made of timber from nearby mine shafts. Peter Lalor was placed in charge of this operation, and Lalor told miners to build a stockade, and they swore an oath. Okay, so this was in protest of all of the background context that we talked about. Okay, so the mining licenses, of the imprisonment of rebels who burnt down the Ballarat Hotel, as well as the corruption from the authorities like the license checkers and the police officers. So this oath, okay, Peter Lalor said, "It is my duty now to swear you in and to take with you the oath to be faithful to the Southern Cross. Now hear me with attention. The man who, after this solemn oath, does not stand by our standard is a coward at heart. We swear by the Southern Cross to stand truly by each other and to fight to defend our rights and liberties." Okay, so many people feel that this oath is discussion of democracy, rights, and freedoms within early Australia. So on the 2nd of December in 1854, this is when they built the stockade. And the government at the time decided that the miners were a threat and started to prepare for a battle. Okay, so on the night of the 2nd of December, many miners went home because it was a Saturday. So a Saturday night, many miners went home and only a few stayed inside the stockade. They did this because they thought that the government would not attack them on a Sunday when people were supposed to be at church. So remember, a majority of miners were Christian. And it was very common at the time to be going to church on a Sunday. So they thought that the government wouldn't attack the stockade because it was a Sunday and it's a Lord's Day of rest. However, that wasn't the case. It was early in the morning, the government troops decided to attack the stockade, and the miners were outnumbered 2-1. It was only a really, really short battle, and it was over in 15 to 20 minutes. There were 22 miners and 4 soldiers killed, and many more were injured. And symbolically, the Eureka flag was torn down. So we will discuss this in our next lesson, where we start to analyze the different symbols of the Eureka Stockade. But this was an incredibly symbolic decision of the government to pull down that flag. Okay, and many miners were arrested. Peter Lalor actually escaped. Okay, he was injured, but he escaped, and so he wasn't arrested. The aftermath was that 13 miners were accused of high treason. This was because they rebelled against the government. Okay, so they felt that they were committing treason to the British Crown. And they were sent to be on trial in Melbourne. However, the general public and the newspapers were on the side of the miners, who said that they were heroes. So a bias came through. Okay, the people did not like how rough the troopers had been, and there were calls for Governor Hotham to be sent back to England. So with the whole idea of how rough the troopers had been, clearly the troopers who were from the government had the upper hand in the battle against the miners, and they still continued to fight them. They still continued to injure them and kill them, which the people felt was very unjust. So there's a common theme of justice and democracy throughout this whole event. Okay, so when the government thought that they would receive support from the general public, they did not. The general public actually supported the miners. So as a result of this, the miners were actually given their requests. Firstly, the rebels were released from prison, and the mining license was replaced by the miners' right. So this meant that the diggers could mine, vote, and occupy land for a small annual fee because it was still a tax. Okay, so they had greater benefits of paying this tax. And finally, talking about the democratic sentiment, okay? So many argue that the Eureka Stockade is a symbol of early democracy in Australia. So it represented the first time that Australian citizens rebelled against government rule and they won, that the voices of the people were heard. So many would say that this Eureka Stockade is the first time that the Australian citizens united and made a decision based on their liberties and their desires as a people. Beautiful. So once you've gone through this and you've taken your notes, make sure that you put them somewhere safe. So I would recommend putting them into your OneNote, which means that I can have a look at them. Okay, and for next lesson, we're going to come together and we're going to start looking at a source analysis and completing a source analysis based on the ideas of the Eureka Stockade. Okay, thank you, grade 9.